Right, hi everyone. Welcome to the next video on our banking CLI application. So in the last video, we worked on the account login feature. So our user is able to now log in into the application. So let's do a test. Right, now that works. Right, so in this video, we'll be implementing the transaction pin setup. So we have a flow. So if a user logs in for the first time, or logs in for the first time, we will check to see if the transaction pin is set. In fact, any subsequent, any login attempt would always check to see if the transaction pin is set. If it's set, then we take the user straight to the dashboard screen. But if it's not set, then we would prompt the user to set up their PIN. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so we have a screen for that. As you can see, on successful login, we are redirecting to the setup PIN page, and we're doing that because um, we didn't see a PIN after login, which is here. So there is no PIN set right now. Right, and so this is where we're going to set the pin. So let's do that. So the first thing we do now, we need to know this user. We need the details of this user to be able to set the pin for this user. So how do we get the details of the signed in user? So we're going to create some kind of session state. Okay, so a session would be, when you log into a platform, you can reload that page or navigate to different pages, and the platform or the site or the app knows that you are the one um, that is accessing this, and it gives you um, context-based data. Okay, that is tied to your account. It doesn't show you details of another person's account. It shows you the details of the account you logged in, even though you didn't log in again. So if you log in, let's say you go to your profile page, if you refresh the page, you'll still be on the profile page seeing your data. It won't ask you to log in again. This is because it has some kind of identifier that it uses to remember you and shows you information um, based on the account that's currently logged in. So we're going to create something similar. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some kind of function in a some mm, let's say some kind of session in our menu manager. So it's going to be very simple, nothing complex. So first we're going to create a private property. We're going to call it account entity. It's going to be nullable by default. I'm going to call it account, and then we'll set it to null by default. Then we're going to create a helper function, static function. We'll call this get account data, or get, we can call this logged in user or current user or current account. We could call it that. Okay, let's see. Uh, we could call it user, right? But let's leave it as account for now. So we could say get current account, and this will return an account entity or no. Okay. Mm, All right, so this current account, so we're going to check to see if this entity is empty. Okay, if it's empty, we would be okay. Let's do this. Let's make sure that we always return an account entity. But if for some reason we didn't see that entity, we'll take the current session as expired and send the user straight to the login page where they can log in into the application. All right, because so we are trying to access a protected resource, and you need to have logged in before you can access that resource because we will need data from your login details to be able to show you anything on the page. So the page shouldn't even be able to work without that data. So I'm going to remove this. So I'm going to do a check. I would say if this, or could say if self account, right? So if it's equals to null, we're going to redirect to the login page, login, render login thing. Yeah, render login form. So if it's null, else we'll return accounts, which is self. Maybe let's this self account. Yeah, accounts. Right. That syntax feels weird. All right. So here we're checking if the account is null. If it's null, then we take it back to login form. But if it's not, we return the details of the account. Now, in a real life application, you might not want to store every data about the account entity. You might want to pick certain important information, okay, and then identifiers that you can use to get other information. So maybe you'd want to have something like the name of the user and also the an ID, okay, an identifier, okay. You can use the ID to always retrieve the full information of the account entity, and the name might be for presentation purposes. You want to address the user by name. Welcome, John Smith. Welcome, Mary Adejo. Like that. So now, if we were to do this, so here we need to get some information of the accounts, right? So let's do accounts, get accounts. I think that's what we call it. Okay, get current accounts. Uh, current accounts. Right, so let's see what happens when we do this. So let's log in. Put the password. So you can see we have this error. Okay, so undeclared static property. Um, let's see, undeclared static property. Oh, yes, I didn't make it static. Right now it's an instance property. So we're going to make it static. Let's try that again. Right. So as you can see, it logged in successfully, but guess what? It took us back to the account login form. Okay. And this is because we have not set the account property when we logged in, right? So we'll just add a bit of code here. So as soon as we logged in successfully, let's set that. So let's do self account equals accounts. Yeah, that's this data right here. Account. Now accounts will be available because if this loop breaks, then we'll have a value in this variable. But we could do account equals to null just to be explicit, right? Okay, so let's try that again. Let's see what's wrong. Self or yeah, right. So now that works. So we have the details of the account. Great. Okay, so let's move on. Right, so what are the steps? Mm, so we might want to check to see if the pin is set. Okay, just to be safe. So if it's set, then um we shouldn't take the user, we shouldn't allow the user to set a new pin. So let's do an extra check to confirm if the pin is set, right? So we'll say if accounts get pin hash is not null, then throw an error, right line, pin already set. Then we'll just return for now. Okay, but if it's not, we need to get the details of the pin from the user. So we have a form config, and we need a new call it let's call it um let's call it pin new form field config. Call this new pin, make it true. We'll add some validators. So we want to have a minimum and maximum length of, mm, let's make it 4 digits. The minimum length of 4, maximum length of 4, and we also want each character in the pin to be a numeric value. So how do we check that? Okay. Now, if we use is numeric would work for numbers. Okay, but then what happens to the first zero? Let's say we put 000. What would show if we provide that? So let's test it, right? So we'll do form data equals CLI helper render form config, and let's do this. So let's do Mary at the jar at gmail.com. Yeah, it asks us for a new pin. So let's see if we put, oh, we haven't put that validator. Let's do that. So validator is numeric. Says to Mary editor at gmail.com. Password. New pin. Let's do 000. Okay, let's test the length. Great. Let's put more than 4. Great. Let's do 4. Yeah, okay. This works. All right. Okay, let's actually test that. So let's do what do I want to test? Okay, I want to test if we include a letter in the pin. So let's do UY67. Great, right? So this one. Then we also want to have a confirm pin or pin confirmation. I'm gonna say just say confirm pin and to share the same set of validators. Okay, but there are two ways we could do this. We could depend on the fact that this value must be equal to this value as its validator. Okay, so in that case, we won't need to even validate this. We just keep checking to see if whatever is here is equals to whatever is here. So basically, whatever is here would apply as a validation. Okay, or we could give it its own set of validator. Okay, but then we still have to validate this value against this value. Okay, so if the pin you provided is not equal to this, do we keep the user in this line or do we force the form to keep looping where you provide the new pin and the pin confirmation till you get those two combinations? Right? The easiest is to do something like what we did in our login form, something like this. Okay, no, not this. Here, something like this would be the easiest to do, right? Especially since we are updating this. But then I'm thinking, is there a way we can hook onto this value? Is there a way we can get this value and use that in this validator? That's something I'm considering. Is there a way a validator can tap into the current context of form config? Hmm. hmm, Let's see. Or we could maintain an array of anytime we render the form, we can maintain some kind of map of all the fields, and then when the validator is validating, we can check that map to confirm uh, the value and extract that value, use it to compare against the use it to compare with the what's it called with the value okay that um in that other form field. So basically we want to have a way to compare the value here with the value here. But then it's a bit complex. but it will come in handy. Okay, especially when we are doing because we are also going to do password change password feature, and it will be a nice thing to have. Okay, maybe we could do a separate video for that. Yeah, let's do a separate video for that. But I'm thinking it's possible. We'll do a separate video for that. Yeah, it is. So for now, we'll just apply the same set of validators, right? Mm, array, and we'll close this. Yeah. Then we include a while loop around this. So say while true. Okay. Then once we find out the form, we'll compare the passwords and say, or the pins rather, I will say if form data pin is equal to form data pin confirmation. Okay, equal, then we can break out of this loop. Okay, and proceed with storing the pin. However, if it's not correct, then we will print a message. Let's do this. Yeah, we could do a tab, right? And hmm, okay, let's do the tab here. I'll put this here. Then we do this, followed by this. We could create a function to make this easy for us. So let's create a function for that. So call that print error. Where's a CLI helper? Okay, so let's do public static function print error message. Or, mm, it's a bit too long. Mm, yeah, let's just call it print error, right? And this will accept a string message. It's not going to return anything. And we'll just take advantage of right line. So say self right line. Then we'll put our new line, put this, put a tab, then we include the message that needs to be printed, put the tab, put this again, and put our new line. So with this now we could replace our print error with this and with this. So all we just need to do is to pass our message in there. Right, so here we do uh, pin, let's see, the pins provided do not match. Um, please try again. Yeah, let's do that. So we render our form, we get the pin and the pin confirmation. Then we compare to see if the values are equal. If they aren't, then we show this error. But if they are, we break and we continue with the data for the form. So let's make form data available here. Just set it to null for now by default. And then, so at this point, we've gotten our pin, right? So we'll get our, so what we need is the hash pin. We don't need the actual pin, or at least we don't need to store the actual pin. We need to store the hash version of the pin. So we could say hash pin equals account itself thing, uh, hash value, correct. Let's see, account detail, account detail, account detail. Yes, hash value. Right. So hash value, provide the pin. So say from data pin. So this one about hash pin. And once we have that, we need to update our account entity with that value. Okay. So we'll say account. Let's see. Updated. Yeah, we'll say account equals account entity update. So let's see what we have available in the update function for account entity. So update, we must provide an ID, but the password hash, balance, pin hash are all optional. So these two, ID and the pin is what we need. So we'll say ID equals to accounts get ID, and we'll say pin hash equals to hash pin. Okay, so let's see what are we expecting from the update function. We're expecting an account entity or no, right? And we could use a CLI helper here, but we might refactor that later. All right, so if all is successful, let's just do a check to see if this failed. Or maybe before updating, let's make sure we actually got the account. The Let's make sure the update was successful. So let's say if uh, updated account is null. Let's do this. If it is null, then we'll do CLI helper, print error, say an error occurred when attempting to set new transaction pin. Right. Yeah, and then will call itself, which would be when the new transaction being set up. Or we could fail here and give the user another way to attempt, but consider we need to keep the user on this part of the form. Okay, it's okay just rendering the form back. Okay, but if all is good, then let's update our account. So say accounts. Yeah, we could reuse this variable here. So let's say account, account, and then we'll update our session data with the new info. So say equals account. Then we can show error or success message, pin transaction pin set set successfully. And then once that's done, we should take the user to the dashboard. But then yeah, we should take the user to the dashboard. So let's do render dashboard. Alright, so let's run this and see. Good. Where error is always error. 581. Let's see that. 581. Okay, yes. Yes. Right. So let's log in. Mary Adejo, gmail.com. Password. Login successful. Set up new PIN. Yes. Set up new PIN. Let's do meow. Okay, didn't work. Let's do 0909. Okay, let's do 0000. Okay, pin provided. Pins provided do not match. Let's try again. Alright, so let's try again. 0909. 0909. Great, so the pin was set successfully and it should take us to our dashboard. Alright, so now let's try logging in as this user once again with the pin already set. Okay, so you can see straight to the dashboard because the pin has been set. Right. So in our next video, we would we're done with this. In our next video, would work on our dashboard. Okay, and would also do some fixes. There are places we can improve on our application. Okay, so you can see we have um, um let's see, um, let's call this fixes and improvements to do. So let's see. We need to, when navigating to a new screen, we need to clear the content of the previous screen from the UI. Okay, so that's what we do. Then we factor all um, all validation, or let's say all error message output to use our new CLI helper print error function. Yeah. And also there's something we could do as well. I remember, or it came to my mind while I was working on this, but I've forgotten that. Where's that? Mm. Right, so I think we need to do something like press enter to continue or something. Okay, want a way where we can keep the message here, and then as soon as you want to continue to the next, think of it like pressing OK or confirm in your UI. So you're done or you've seen the error, you click on that OK to acknowledge it and you continue the process. So we need to do something like a pause function. Okay, we could quickly do that now. So mm, let's call it a static function. Pause, and our pause will be nothing more than a read line with a label. We'll call it press enter to continue. Yeah, and it's required will be false. So we don't need to provide that. So basically, that's what pause will do. So the idea is, let's say we printed this, right? We could even do a print and pause with something like that, right? So that we don't have to call this. We don't have to call it twice, like print a success message and then um, wait for and then do this help pause. We'll find a way to do a bit of optimization so that we can do CLI helper, something like dot OK or something. Right. Okay, so let's see how this works now with this new change. Uh, where are we? Okay, yeah, we did it when setting up a new pin. Okay, so let's do it in our login page. Let's also do it. Okay, yeah. So we could replace this, right, with that line. Yeah. And then for login, we could do it here as well. Yeah. Okay, so let's check it out. Login Mary at the job at gmail.com. And storage is getting filled up. Alright, so this is nice. So we have a small typo. We'll fix that quickly. Yeah, as you can see, it doesn't look nice. We need to have a way to clear the screen. So we'll do that in our next video. Yeah. Um, let's see, where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Where's that typo? Here. Right. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves.